This is an animals guide for RimWorld. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about animals in this game, how to tame them, use them, and all the little details that matter. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So in order to tame an animal, you're going to need a pawn who has good animals skill. If they don't, it's going to be tough because animals can only be tamed if your animal handling skill is high enough. For example, elephants are really hard to tame. They take 7 animal handling skill, so it's not something you're able to get right away. If your animal handling skill is very low, if it's like 0, then the only thing that you'll be able to tame are certain farm animals, if you even see any, because they're kind of rare to find organically. So a duck, for example, 0 minimum handling skill in order to train it. Now, in order to train an animal, this one's already tamed or whatever, say this one over here. If you go and find an animal on the map, you can click it and then click tame. This will mark it for tame, and when your animal handler is available and food is available to tame them with, they'll come and tame them. Now, there's a few things to know about this. So if it is an herbivore, your pawn will need some kind of vegetable source like rice or kibble or something, which we'll talk about kibble in a sec, in order to tame it. If it's a carnivore, you'll need some type of meat in order to tame the animal. Your handler will then grab whatever resource and then go walk out to them and attempt to tame them. Now, in order to make this happen, you either have to right-click and manually do it. So I would have to, I guess this person's already taming right now, so I can't, but you would right-click and say tame. And then your person will do it right now. Or if you just want it to be a scheduled task at the appropriate time, go to the work tab. And if you use the advanced priorities, find the person who you want to do the taming and make sure their handling is set very high priority. So whenever they have a moment, they can go ahead and tame whatever animal. Now, we talked about kibble. Kibble is an efficient food source that you can use for most animals. I think wargs are the only ones in the base game that can't take it. So you'll need a butchering table. You'll have to butcher a creature, and then also you have to add a bill to butcher a creature and add a bill to make kibble. And then kibble uses one source of, like, one vegetable source or one meat source. So you'll need to butcher animals, and you'll need to have berries or hay grass or rice, corn, something like that. And it's more efficient than just feeding them anything else because it takes 1 nutrition of each, but makes a product that gives 2.5 nutrition. Also, if kibble is under a roof and in a storage area like this, it will never rot. So you could stockpile thousands upon thousands of kibble instead of having meat and stuff that rots, which is very helpful in a playthrough where you don't have electricity, like a tribal start or something like that. But anyway, you could take kibble then in order to tame it, or you can take, in this case, vegetables for this one, like rice, or if it's a carnivore like a panther, you'll need meat, or you could also feed it kibble. Now, being able to tame an animal, again, requires the skill. So like the panther takes 8 handling skill, very difficult to tame, but even then it's not a guaranteed chance. So the higher your animal skill is relative to what you need in order to tame it. So if it's 0 and it needs 0 and your skill is 9, then there's going to be a good chance every time you try that you're going to tame it, like a 30% chance or a 40% chance or something higher maybe. But if your animal skill is 9 and this one takes 8 in order to do, you're going to have a low chance of taming it, maybe a 10% chance or something like that. And some animals don't like that. Some animals don't like being tamed. So if you look at the information, there is a revenge chance on tame fail. So basically, with a 30% on a panther, if 1 out of 3 times that I fail to tame the panther, it will then try to kill me. Well, me being, whichever person is going to tame it. So this is why it's also important, if you can, to have your tamer have a very high melee stat, ideally have a trait of being a brawler, which this person does not have, but, that's not everything's always ideal. And have them with some good armor, like a long sword or something, or some crazy melee weapon, so that way, if they do get the revenge chance triggered on something, they'll defend themselves. But if they don't have that, keep them in mind and don't necessarily go try to tame something that could kill you. That's not a good idea then, depending on where you are in your playthrough or something like that. Now, animals have other stats in here. They have their move speed, their trainability, which we'll talk about in a moment. They also have a filth rate, which is how quickly they dirty up an area that they live in. They have carry capacity. They have whether or not they're a pack animal, which we'll also talk about in a minute, blocked by fences. And they have life expectancy, which is really important to see. You don't want to waste your time taming an animal that's 12 years old if its life expectancy is 13, or if it's like right on the end of its life cycle. It's not necessarily worth your time, depending. And then they have the revenge chance on harm, which you might already know about if you played this game. Talk about how long it takes for them to grow from a baby to an adult. And then there's also how much damage they do. Speaking of the baby to adult, if you have multiple animals, a male and a female of the same type, so if we have a male elephant and 2 females here, they will randomly breed and they will become pregnant, and you will see in health pregnant. Now, they can have a miscarriage, so make sure that they don't get starved or injured. If they do, there may be a miscarriage. But animals will reproduce, and slowly, you'll get more and more and more of them, basically. So another thing we need to talk about before moving on to anything else is tameness. So animals like farm animals, like ducks and chickens and dogs, they're not really farm animals, but dogs and cats, they have 0 wildness, which makes them easy to tame, and it makes it so their tameness never goes away. They literally will be tamed forever. They don't need any maintenance. Once you get them, they're done. You're done. You have them. And some of them can be trained more advanced, some can't. So ducks have trainability none. And this means the only thing I can do is just tame them at all. They can't be trained to do anything. So animals like this, you only want to get for specific purposes, like pack animals, like alpacas or something, or farm animals because they give resources. So animals can give resources. Ducks can lay eggs, which you can use for food and you can sell. Some animals, like alpacas, can be used for alpaca wool. Every 10 days, you'll shear some wool. You can make clothes out of it, or you can just sell it, or make clothes and sell the clothes. And then some animals can be milked for milk, and one animal, boom rats, can be milked for chem fuel, which is a really interesting concept. Now, not all animals are the same in how that you manage them. So for some of the advanced animals, you can go to zones, and you can make an area like this. So I have area 1. And then I can go to my animals tab and see my tamed animals and restrict them to that area, and they'll hang out there. So that's how to take care of elephants, make sure they have enough room to graze so they don't starve to death and stuff like that. But so these animals, it doesn't have that. It says not in a pen. But what you have to do is you have to go to structure, wooden fence, and make a whole fence like this with a gate, and then eventually a pen marker once it's done. And then once you have a marked pen, then your handler will just randomly grab them and bring them over to the pen and put them in the pen. And then from there, you're good. If you don't put them in a pen, there's a random chance they'll just randomly roam off the map and never come back. So you definitely want to put pen animals like ducks into a pen. It doesn't have to be a pen, it's just pens are efficient. But you could do it inside of a structure with actual walls, like what we have here. I already have one, but we have this structure here. So you could just put them in here and mark that as a pen with a pen marker, and that will take care of animals going into a pen, if you want to put them in there, but just costs a lot more. But some you want to do, like boom rats, you want to put them into a stone pen because they can blow up and catch fire. So it just depends. Also, to be a little more specific about this pen marker, in case you're confused, once you build a pen, if you have a gate, the gate is what you need. Well, even the fence can do it too. But you can put it on, once you click it, it'll bring up an option at the bottom that says wooden pen marker, and you'll need 30 wood in order to build it. So then you'll be able to do it from there, which is kind of awkward, and then tell your person to go build it. And once they do that, then you'll be able to take your ducks and prioritize roping them. And you can actually get multiple at a time, take them all in, and now all the ducks are inside the pen. Now, that was probably a bad idea for me to make such a small pen because they're all going to starve to death now because there's not enough grass. But yeah, you can put them all in a pen like that. Now, something else to know about animals is that you can, once they're tamed, you can see their needs and stuff, their food, their sleep, make sure they don't starve to death. But also under their health, I would always recommend changing them all to doctor care, but no medicine, so they don't waste all your medicine. Generally, animals are going to be okay without medicine. The only time you really want a medicine is if they have a serious thing like animal plague, or if they have multiple injuries that need to be healed rapidly so they don't bleed out. That would be the time to use a medicine instead, because medicines will heal multiple wounds per attempt. Or if you just want to save time, you have tons of herbal medicine, then that's also another time you'd want to use medicine. Make sure you swap all those down, because not always a good idea to have them all like that. All right, so we talked about these tabs. There's animal tab. We can see everything from here. We can also set the doctor care from here, which saves you a lot of time instead of finding all the animals. You can also set the tameness things that you want to do from down here and stuff, which we'll talk about in just a second. And you can also set the pens from here. You can also set whether or not to sterilize them so they can't have kids, whether to slaughter them for food in case you have too many or just don't want them anymore, or to release them into the wild if you just want to get rid of them without killing them. Now, these tameness things. So we talked about this. Tameness goes down. You see this one's at 4 or 5. If an animal has wildness that's more than 10%, they'll have a decay on their tameness. So it takes maintenance to keep them from just turning wild and just roaming off. So in order to do that, your handler has to every day go up to them and train them. Now, you can't do it when sleeping. You do it manually, or they'll do it automatically if they have no other taming jobs to do. But that's why it's important to have a tamer full-time dealing with things if you want to keep things like elephants, because these will go down over time, and if they go to 0, the animal will roam off. But they all do stack, so if you train some of the other ones, they'll decay one at a time. So if they're tamed to everything, it'll take a long time for them to go wild again. So in order to do this stuff, you can turn it off, and all your handler will do is keep their tameness up. But if I mark guard, then it will take 3 attempts, successful attempts, and guard will then be 3 of 3, and then the animal can be assigned a master who will follow and defend whenever you draft your pawns. After guard is done, that allows you to train any one of these ones that you want. You don't have to train them all. You can pick and choose. Attack allows you to release the animal temporarily to chase after enemies and fight them. Rescue allows your animal to try to pick up downed pawns and then bring them back to a bed and save them. And then hauling makes them go if they're in an area that will let them do it. Like, if these elephants wouldn't be able to do it because I'm restricted to a zone. But if they were unrestricted, or if it was in their zone, they could go and just randomly grab this rice and put it in the stockpile, randomly pick up wood and put it in the stockpile, stuff like that. So that is what hauling does. Now, again, if you have all of these checked and your person eventually gets all of them maxed out, then it'll start, I think, starts from bottom. So you'll see hauling go 6 of 7, 5 of 7, 4 of 7 every 7 days or whatever it is based on the wildness, and then all the way through. So if everything's marked, everything's done, and your tamer's actually tamed them up like that, it'll take years, in-game years, for them to eventually go wild again. So you can kind of stockpile tameness by going and getting everything like that. So anyway, when you go to tame them, it's not a 100% chance. It depends on the animal skill of the person. So this person has animals 9, and when they try to tame it with the elephants, for example, that the already tame ones, there's like a 30% chance of success or so. And to do that also takes food. You'll need kibble, or you'll need hay grass or rice or berries or something, and every time you attempt to tame them. So it costs a lot of resources to keep them tame. So be careful with what you tame. It's not a good idea to have this many animals with no rhyme or reason. Like, rats are actually terrible because they have wildness and they don't really do anything. So, keep in mind, rats are actually really good, though, for training tameness, I guess, if you're level 4 or whatever. But there's so many on the map. But, keep that in mind when taming. If you just want to train taming, maybe you just tame the animals and then slaughter them immediately. It just depends. But yeah, keep in mind, having too many animals without enough handlers is a bad idea. They'll all just go wild eventually. Also, not all animals can get these things. Like I said, the ducks can't be trained in any way. The rats can't be trained. Monkeys have intermediate trainability, so they can be trained to guard and attack, but they can't rescue or haul things. So keep that in mind. It's also important to know when trying to figure out what animals you want to tame. Also, pack animals are a thing. So pack animal, yes, or it'll say no here. So alpacas, elephants, horses, muffalos, I think, lots of other animals. And what this means is that when you go to the world map and you click on your colony, form a caravan, choose somewhere to go, accept, then you can take your colonists, and you can also take these pack animals, and each one will increase how much carry weight you can carry in your caravan. Now, this is really helpful when you want to move colonies, or you want to trade large sums of goods to another place, or offer huge gifts to another colony. And also, if the animal is rideable, there's a stat for rideable, then if you have one for each colonist, it'll make them move faster. So there are 3 colonists and 3 of these. My move speed can be much higher then, because my colonists can ride on them when in the caravan. And so that's important to know. Riding and pack animals are a huge part of the game. So definitely, that's like the number one thing to do. Just get like a couple alpacas or something, or an elephant or 2 or something, because it just makes life easier when you actually use caravans. Also, don't forget, you can go to the wildlife tab. We talked about this, and see all the animals that are currently on the map, and then click one to see where it is. And you can also do a lot of stuff from here. You can mark them for hunting, or mark them to be hunted, or mark them to be tamed from here. You can also see their revenge chance, and they're from being attacked, and their revenge chance from being tamed. You can also see if they're a predator. You can also just click the little eye from here to learn more about that species in general without having to actually go over to it. So that's really helpful when you want to tame a bunch of animals and see what's going on the map, see what's available. And so I could go here and say, I want the elephants. I could just say, tame these 3. You can also see their gender, so I could be like, all right, I want 1 male and then 2 females. Go and tame them when you can. And then it also has life stage. You can mouse over it to see how old these animals are, which is also helpful, so you don't tame ones that are on the verge of death, basically, of old age. And and there's alpacas, for example. Those ones are other pack animals. They give alpaca wool, make a lot of money by selling alpaca wool. You can also see grass to maintain and other helpful information in there. And then one last thing, I haven't tested this myself, but there was an idea if there's not enough grass in the zone that they're feeding in, apparently you can do a grow zone and then plant dandelions. And apparently at 10%, dandelions can be eaten, and it actually is more efficient than just letting wild grass grow. I never tested this myself, but I read this and thought that was really interesting. Also, don't forget you can grow hay grass, which allows you to stockpile large amounts of food for animals that can eat hay grass, or you can use the hay grass as a material with meat in order to make kibble. So hay grass is also an important part of animal handling, so keep that in mind as well. Consider making hay grass if you have the growers available for that. And then one last thing here that's really important to know, save the best for last. Some animals are really hard to tame. This panther, for example, extremely dangerous to tame and extremely hard to tame because it has wildness 80. Thrumbos are even worse. Thrumbos are the main one that you're going to be doing this to, is because they're so hard to kill. So what you can instead do is you could draft all your colonists and go and try to kill the animal. Once the animal is downed, I mean, it may just die, but, you know, based on your luck. But if it's not dead and it goes down, you can go to furniture and you can go to animal sleeping spots, place down an animal sleeping spot, and after there's an animal sleeping spot on the ground, you'll be able to right-click rescue on the downed animal, and someone will take it back to be mended. Then what you can do is you can patch up the animal, and then you can go and you can check its health to make sure that no body parts are going to actually break, because like you can see the health on an injured body part. I don't know if we have any here. Yeah. Well, we can't see the health. Well, yeah, we can. The tail's at 2 of 4. 2 HP points out of 4 HP points. Just make sure that none of the body parts that are important are going to, you know, hit 0, because then they'll break forever. So you lose a leg or lose a brain or something. But anyway, you'll go there and you'll tend to the animal, heal it up, give it a little bit of time to heal, like a few hours, and then you'll select the colonist, draft them, and then click the melee attack button and melee attack the downed animal and beat them up some more, but don't kill them. So while you're beating them up, you'll keep an eye on the health, make sure that nothing's going to break. And then once they start getting really badly injured again, you stop attacking them and you heal them again. And you do this over and over and over and over again. And there's 2 reasons to do it. One is it's a good way to train medical XP. But the real reason you do it is every time that you tend to an injured animal, there's a small chance that you'll build a bond with that animal. And a bonded animal instantly gets tamed. So you can force a tame with a dangerous animal like a thrumbo by just beating it up and healing it over and over and over and over again. And sooner or later, you'll form a bond with it, and then you'll have a tame thrumbo, or a panther, or a warg, or a grizzly bear, or whatever else it is that's, you know, dangerous as hell to try to tame normally. So that's like one little trick that can allow you to tame some crazy dangerous animals. So keep that in mind. That's a really good thing to know. But yeah, guys, I think that about wraps it up. This has been the Animal Guide. I hope you guys learned a lot. Hopefully now have a better idea of how animals work. Maybe in the future I'll make a guide on what the best animals are and why you'd want different ones. But this one was just a crash course to get you started so you know how to do it yourself. Hopefully this video helped you out. Check out the description for other helpful stuff. And also, if you want to help me, check out this game that I'm making on Steam. I'll have a link to it in the description of this video below the first paragraph. Called Art Gallery Simulator. Check that out. That would help me out a lot. But anyway, guys, this has been my animal guide for RimWorld. Hopefully it helped you out. Now you know how to tame and take care of animals and how to use animals in RimWorld.